What is up, guys? It is officially Wedding Wednesday. This is where we answer some of your toughest questions and most difficult dilemmas when it comes to the business of wedding photography. My name is Eric. I've been a wedding photographer for like 8 years now. I'm based in Boston, Massachusetts, and I'm also over here in Bangkok, Thailand. I've seen tons of questions online that I thought were super interesting, so I've pulled 3 of them today for us to check out. And by the way, the third one is the stuff of wedding photography nightmares, so make sure you stick around and check that one out. But before we get started, I just wanted to ask you to consider please hitting the subscribe button. I have a ton of content coming up to help you grow your photography business, make more money, and just make your whole operation a little bit smoother. All right, let's get going. First question of the day comes from Hope. Has anyone ever had a bride cut you off, basically rush you off the phone after discussing pricing? She wasn't interested in continuing talking and basically said, okay, thanks, bye. So I'm assuming that you got on the phone with a bride to discuss wedding photography package, and she did not know the price before she got on the phone. And I know this is a hotly debated topic. Should you send the pricing to a couple before you hop on the phone or do an in-person meeting, or should you wait till that first meeting to go over pricing? And I think this is a good reason why you should send it ahead of time. At least you should send something ahead of time, because if they don't know what your pricing is at all, and they might love your work, but they get on the phone and realize it's just too expensive, then the conversation is basically going to be over. And at that point, not only have you wasted your time, but their time has been wasted, and just no one is having a good day. But even besides pricing, I think there could be a lot of things that could be said during a meeting or a phone call that just really turn the couple off, and just to them, it makes you seem like you're not going to be a good fit to work with each other. And that is totally fine. And I think the sooner you guys figure that out, the better. And it can come from both directions. Maybe the couple is talking about something that you realize is just not going to work. Maybe they want really light and airy photos, but your whole portfolio is dark and moody. If they're talking about how much they love this light and airy look, and can you edit more like this, then that is a big red flag. And at that point, I'd probably just bring it to their attention that, you know, maybe I'm not the best fit for you, but maybe I can recommend someone else. There's no point in wasting time if you know it's not going to work out. So for Hope here, who's asking this question, I wouldn't feel bad about it, whether it's pricing or something else. If you guys weren't a good fit for each other for one reason or another, no hard feelings. Move on to the next one. This person asks, this question is for those who have managed to quit your 9-to-5 job and do photography full time. What was your exit plan before quitting your day job? How much do you save before taking the plunge? And how do you know it's time to quit your job? I'm in a weird spot right now where my day job is taking too much of my energy and attention that I'm usually too exhausted to do anything after work, including my photography. I even had to turn down a few paid shoots because usually the time clashes with my day job, and I know I'll get burned out if I take them on. What should I do? Well, quite honestly, you know what is really going to burn you out? If you quit your day job and you try to make it at photography full time before you're ready. There's nothing that kills dreams and passions more than being forced to do it under a hammer because you need the money so badly. So first, I would take it as a blessing that you have a day job that you can rely on. I think when anyone's trying to pursue a creative field, it's great, but you should really consider the risks and the added stress that it could bring to your life. In this case, this person has a day job, and I think that's a great foundation to be able to make smart decisions, invest in equipment and education, so that when they make the transition over to a creative job like photography, it's just a lot easier and they're in a lot better of a position. For example, I know a lot of photographers are struggling when they start out to afford gear, or maybe they want to attend a retreat or attend a styled shoot to get some really killer photos for their portfolio, but they simply can't afford it because they're not bringing in the business yet to be able to afford that kind of stuff. This person has a day job that could ultimately pay for that stuff, and the interesting thing is that would probably help propel their photography career faster. I think this person's real challenge is just time management. So I don't think that turning down a few shoots is a big deal at all. Of course, that's totally fine. I think maybe she just needs to set a defined schedule of when she's going to be doing her photography work and when she's going to be doing her day job. So if she does her day job Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 or whatever, then maybe she saves her photography work for Saturday afternoons and, Friday evenings or whatever. I think just a little forethought about that, about when you're placing it into your life, would go a long way. And if shoots come outside of that range, if someone wants to do a shoot on a Sunday, but Sunday is family day for you, then you can just turn it down. Yes, you might be doing a little less photography work than you really want to be doing, but in my opinion, it's better to take things a little slowly in your photography career and make steady progress rather than make the jump too soon and be constantly under pressure financially. Her big question is, how do you know when it is ultimately time to quit your day job? I think you could look at it one of two ways. If you hate your day job with a passion and you're looking to move on from it as soon as possible, I think you can set a minimum viable point before you jump ship. And that could be a total amount in savings plus a total amount of jobs booked for the year, plus a backup plan that's well thought out. So if you had those three things, and those three things, the parameters could be a little different for every person, then once you hit those three things, then you know it's time. But you should really take some time to think about what those metrics should be for you and not make any impulsive decisions. You might say, okay, I want to have $20,000 in savings. I want to have 10 weddings booked next year, and I have my cousin over here who works at this company who said they can get me an interview if all else fails. If you first figure out those three things and set the numbers that are right for you, I think you're gonna feel a lot better when you eventually jump feet first into your photography career. And our last question for today, brace yourself, I hope this never happens to you guys. Allison says, question about contracts and limit of liability clauses. If you have a limited liability clause in your contract stating that you are not responsible for photo loss due to failure from a camera, SD cards, hard drive, etc., what do you do in the unfortunate event that something does happen to your images and your client fights you? So long story short, they had a hard drive go down after the wedding and they apparently lost everything, but the photographer spent $1,000 to have a data recovery service recover the images, and luckily they were able to recover all of the images except for 15, but those 15 were during some of the formal photos of the bridal party, and the couple was upset that some of those photos of the bridal party were missing. Quite frankly, if I was the couple and I heard this happen and I found out that all of the photos were lost, but then they recovered them and now only 15 were missing, I would not even care what 15 photos were missing. I mean, I might be slightly disappointed, but you know, things happen, so I would just be happy to get like 95% of the photos back. But unfortunately, that did not happen with this couple because this couple was not happy that those 15 photos were missing. The couple got a lawyer and was asking for a $500 refund out of a $2,000 package price. So the couple paid $2,000 and now they're asking for $500 back, all because these 15 photos are missing. And I want to say that whether or not I agree with the couple here is not really relevant. What is relevant to this conversation is sort of the business legal perspective. And by the way, I am not a lawyer. If you're in a situation like this, get a lawyer and ask them what to do. This is just my opinion based on personal experience, having shot like hundreds of weddings over 8 years. Take my thoughts for what you will. It's just for entertainment purposes only. Anyway, so this photographer paid $1,000 to get the photos recovered. They got all of them back except for 15 photos. The couple still wasn't happy and they want a $500 refund, which is 25% of what they paid for the photographer to shoot the wedding. The photographer's point is basically like, hey, I already spent $1,000 out of my own pocket to get the photos recovered. You know, it's not really fair for me to refund you another $500, especially if it's only for a few photos. And while I sort of agree with the photographer's thinking here, at the end of the day, it's not really relevant whether the photographer had to pay $1,000 or $10,000 to recover the photos because it was the photographer's mistake. They were not using a proper backup system, obviously, if they lost all the photos from this wedding. So the couple doesn't care how much money you spent to recover their photos. It was your mistake in the first place. Now, when it comes to giving them additional money back, that is where things get a little tricky here. I think the mistake the photographer made here is before they paid the $1,000 to have the photos recovered, they should have gone to the couple and said, hey, I made a mistake. I am so sorry. I think there's a good chance we can fix this, but it's going to cost me $1,000. I'm not going to charge you for the $1,000 if I pay the $1,000 to get the photos recovered for you. Is that acceptable? Put it in front of the couple and then let them say, yes, please do that. Because once they say that, if you can recover the photos, it's going to be a lot harder for them to then ask for something more on top of it. Now, in this case, the photographer did not go to the couple first. They just went and spent the $1,000 and got the photos recovered. And now the couple wants another $500 on top. And that seems like a lot, right? So if I'm the photographer here, I'm going to handle this situation very, very delicately and very politely, because at the end of the day, it was the photographer's fault. It was their error and not the couple's. I would ask if I could get on the phone with the couple, and I'm assuming they're doing everything through email because almost everyone communicates through email all the time. But I would try to call the couple because I think that these sorts of intense conversations can go off the rails really quickly through text, and I think it's a lot easier to feel the human connection over a phone call. So I would ask the couple if we could get on the phone. When I got on the phone with the couple, I would say, hey, I am so sorry. This was my mistake. It is unexcusable. That being said, I did already spend $1,000 to correct the mistake. I got over 95% of the photos back. The 15 missing photos are only 3% of the whole album. And because of that, I do want to give you something a little extra. How about I give you $200 as just a token of my gratitude for you dealing with this situation, and I'm so sorry. Because I think it's going to be really hard at that point for the couple to not accept the money, especially when you lay out in front of them that you already spent $1,000 to recover the photos, and the missing photos are only 3% of the whole album. The shocking thing to me was the couple apparently retained a lawyer and had the lawyer send a letter to the photographer. And I know it's very scary when you get lawyer letters, but the truth is a lot of people have a family member that's a lawyer or whatever. They can just have letters sent at will to intimidate people. How do I know this? Because I've done this myself. I've had a family member that's a lawyer send a letter out to someone, not a couple, but another business for one reason or another. And usually that's scary enough for them to kind of get in line. But in this situation, the photographer is clearly scared because they don't want to be taken to court and sued over the situation. That being said, I think it's unlikely the couple would actually even take it to court, because what are they going to seek damages for? 15 photos out of 500? I mean, the fact that the photographer already clearly gave best efforts to recover the photo, spent the money, and is now willing to give maybe a little bit extra to appease the couple, I think that's more than enough. I think a judge is going to see it that way. Although this is not legal advice, it's just my opinion. I don't think the couple is going to go out of their way to sue a photographer for just a few $100s. I just don't think it's going to happen, especially when the couple has almost all of the photos anyway. Just in my opinion, take it for what it's worth. If you guys enjoy hearing some of the questions that come up in the wedding photography business, then hit the subscribe button. I've got a ton more videos coming up like this. Let me know in the comments below, what would you do in some of these situations? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.